This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, NIL Game Changers, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Being brought to you by NIL Game Changers, your ultimate destination for name, image, and likeness opportunities. Whether you're a business, an athlete, they'll get you going. NILGameChangers.org. Great to have you with us. Wes Durham from the ACC Network a little bit later in the show. High School Roundtable later in the show. But we now bring in somebody who's worked himself into an emotional lather to be on the show today because he was so excited yesterday. He just, let's go now. Nate Bauer, sir, welcome. Great to have you with us. He joins us from the Fifth Fairway.
You read my mind. I've been jonesing for this all day.
Yeah. And we'll start with this. John Rothstein essentially confirmed what you and I talked about in, I don't know, was it May? About Indiana and the Palestra?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while of a big lead. I actually hadn't seen that. Did he just do that today? I assume recently.
I think John put it out today.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Well, that
that tells me two things.
When you're that far ahead of it, Steve.
Right. Well, no, I understand. You and I are not sitting going, really. What this tells me is that if that information by John is out there, that means they're now really close to actually releasing a Big Ten basketball schedule.
That is true. And now 'tis the season. This is when it happens. So, probably next week, I would think. But yeah,
they can't go much late. They can't go much later than that, Nate. Only because you got to have people have to start making plans. For example, I'll give you an example. Like Penn State would love to play a game in Rec Hall. Well, not even Penn State knows because they don't know the schedule. Not even they can plan ahead on something like that to then let the fans know until the Big Ten tells them what the deal is.
Yep. No, it's look, it is a television world, and that dictates everything. And I mean, I knew that Penn State and these are separate conversations, but Penn State just came out with its non-con last week, the week before.
Yes,
last week.
Last week,
right?
Yep.
Yep. So, but that was due to the fact that Penn State really waits for every T to be crossed and I dotted on those contracts, and those things can be fickle sometimes. So, the fact that they obviously they finally got that done. They were hoping to get that done ahead of the Big Ten release, which puts this right in that window. It's like I said, 'tis the season.
Well, and I'll give you an example of crossing T's, dotting I's. Whomever negotiated the Penn State West Virginia 2-game series, normally when you play that series, I'm talking about in football now, right? Normally, you have your conference officials at the away site. This time, it was the Big 12 officials did. I mean, that's what when we talk about I's and T's, that's it.
Wasn't a great day for the profession on Saturday.
No, a slight setback.
It's funny. Years ago, 16, maybe I think it was 16 for the blue-white game. The Big Ten Network had me shadow Jerry McGinn.
Yeah, Jerry's good. Jerry's a great guy, and I have a lot of respect for Jerry. Jerry, in fact, did one of the Penn State football scrimmages last month.
Awesome guy. The whole experience was great. the team, right? The team around, like they've got their own operation, right? The football game, in my mind, there are 3 teams out on that field at all times, right? The 2 opposing teams, and then a team that is working to collaborate and try to call a game as fairly as they can. Right. And it was a very enlightening process. I never go down the path of intention, but certainly, I think in Saturday's case, especially in terms of some of the replay reviews, a lack of attention to detail, right, and just not being thorough led to some questionable at best decisions that group came up with.
The on-field guys, I normally don't have a big problem with over the years.
Yep.
Everything's quick. It's bang, bang, the whole thing. My problem over the years, surprisingly, has been with the replay guys. I've had a lot of problem with the replay guys because now Jack and I don't get what they're looking at sometimes. We don't understand what they're seeing. The guys in the field, and the women as well, so the men and women on the field, it's quick, it's fast, they've got to make decisions and so forth. I don't have a problem with that, Nate. It's the replay people who actually have time.
Yep. Yeah, I think, and this is my just a little bit of outside perspective, but I think there is such an adherence to the word conclusive that it is all lengths of the earth will be pulled out to try to justify the original call being correct. And so I think that tends to be how those things don't get overturned is, it's an erring so far to the extreme of, hey, is there a possibility that this camera angle deceives in terms of where a spot should be, whether a catch is made, you name it, right? I mean, any of those things. So I get it. There's a lot of people. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you saw it, but Neil Brown, his post game, overwhelmingly, aside from being ticked at his team not playing well, was him being upset by calls that were made against West Virginia. And, certainly the Penn State fans who saw that were fairly dumbfounded that a guy who was the beneficiary of quite a few arguably botched calls could come up with that. But, that's the name of the game.
Well, that's his conference officials. So,
yeah.
Level of play, opener, context of opener. What did you think overall of Penn State's level of play in the context of an opener?
Yeah, I thought it was. Look, and I'm sure you get into the same space that I do, which is you see the overreactions in both directions. So at the beginning of the game, it was West Virginia being able to move the ball a little bit on Penn State's defense, right? Getting into the fringe red zone, right? The scoring zone there, ending up with some field goals. That led to, Abdul Carter's position change was a mistake.
You live in a very interesting world. I think we lost him there. So let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance to get back. Nate sounded better before than that. All right, so we'll give him an opportunity to get back on the line because he was cut off there momentarily. We were talking about being online with people as the game plays out, thus you're getting the comments from the fan base in real time, which of course bring with them real-time emotional reactions. And we're going to talk to Nate about that here in a moment and get that back up there. By the way, just a couple of notes, by the way, on the renovations. They're continuing at Beaver Stadium. And Just let me know as soon as we get Nate back, okay? One of them is, and this is something that Pat Kraft talked about last week on the Coaches Show, that the escalators may not be ready for Saturday. That's fine. And Pat mentioned that last week, and I know Nate's now back. Hello, sir.
Oh my goodness, I was heartbroken. I don't know how much you missed. I might have been talking for 2 minutes before I realized the call cut out.
I mean, I feel like we missed the best part because what's interesting about what you do is you get the emotional reactions of the fans online in real time.
Yep.
And not every reaction is a positive one.
That's true. That's true. But some of them are. And I guess kind of the way that I started that last response was, yeah, there was a lot of consternation over Abdul Carter and not coming up with sacks and the defense being, I mean, look, it was yes, Penn State had a lead at 13-6 with 38 seconds to play. I mean, I will say this in the aftermath, the forget the middle eight, the middle. Right, the last 30 seconds of the first half and then the first 5 minutes of the second half completely upended every context of that game that could have been very, very different. Certainly, I don't think that West Virginia was ever truly in a position to win that game, but Omari Evans having a 55-yard reception it changed everything. It changed all kinds of perceptions to where fans, like I said, it kind of swung the pendulum from, oh my goodness, this defense isn't as good as we thought it was, into, oh my goodness, this offense is so great. Playoffs, here we come.
Wow.
Right? It was quite a wave. In between, with a 2.5 hours delay in the middle.
But what was interesting about the Evans play is the play before. It's the run by Singleton.
Yep.
I think that made West Virginia believe that Penn State was going to the locker room. And instead of playing cover 3, they played man. And they got burned by it. If they played cover 3, that you'd try to lure a team into making that throw. But they played man. I mean, that was it's strategically just an absolute mistake by West Virginia.
Big mistake there. I agree with you in the sense that as soon as I saw Nick's carry get stopped, you're not sure what the immediate reaction from that is going to be, but Penn State was hurrying up. Right? Like they rushed into that next play, and they took. I mean, it was not it was not long before they took that next shot, and I do think that there's a side conversation that probably is not getting enough attention, which is Omari Evans doing the thing that Penn State has been desperate for him to do and has been working with him to be able to do. He did it. He was physical, right? If he had drawn an offensive pass interference, I think James Franklin would have been just as proud of him as coming down with that reception.
Right. There's another part. This is what, in my career, it's the third weather delay I've gone through. Ohio State in 2000, the 2017 game, Michigan State in this. I watched Penn State warm up after the break. And I know that Chuck wanted 20 minutes. They ended up getting 15. He said that's fine. Penn State went through its warm-up and was crisp and on point. And West Virginia warmed up for 8 or 9 minutes and walked to the sideline. To me, that was like a telling moment about the mindset of the two teams.
I thought in a lot of ways, and I look, we're up in the press box. We have views from a bunch of different angles of the parking lots, and it was an exodus, right? A lot of fans gave up. They left, and so the atmosphere And look, if you're West Virginia, your sails, the wind got knocked out of you, basically, between the last 30 seconds of the first half, the weather delay, and then a bunch of fans vacating, right, the premises. They didn't come back, and so there was never any real juice on West Virginia's side of things coming out of the break, and Penn State took advantage of it. I mean, it was a foundational step for Penn State to have just handled its business. It was I just thought it was such a mature performance, really from beginning to end, aside from some of the pre and post snap penalties that obviously happened on the defensive side of the ball. But to go to West Virginia, to have all that hype, to have all the situation that existed going into that game, and then just really kind of brush it off and say, okay, this is who we are. We're going to show you who we are. We're going to go out there and play, our game. I think it signaled a solid foundation for Penn State to build on.
No question. Is this then moving forward? Look, Penn State's the prohibitive favorite this week. Everybody on the planet knows it. I'm not so sure they know it in Mali, but that's okay. But everybody knows that they are. What kind of test of maturity is this game for this football team?
Yeah, I think I go back to last year in some ways in saying that Jay Franklin in the postgame, it's not a complaint, but he's acknowledging the fact that you look around the rest of college football and a lot of programs choose to treat week one as something of a preseason. Well, Penn State's preseason is on a delay. It's on a 1 week delay. They had to be ready and prepared for that first game. And now they can focus on maximizing development over, at minimum, the next 3 weeks, right? You got two games against opponents that Penn State should very easily handle. And it is critically important to program development to not just win, but to maximize the win. And that does require a maturity that you're talking about. It is not okay for Penn State, in James Franklin's mind, to simply win these games. They need roster building by making everyone who is not part of the core 22 feel part of a win.
That's right.
I cannot overstate how much of this stuff is now in play in an NIL and transfer portal world. You have to. It becomes critically important to take advantage of these opportunities, and I think that Penn State's going to treat it as such. I think Penn State's I see some score, and I don't know what the spread is, 30, 31 something. I think that Penn State will score as many points as it possibly can to again, like I said, just to maximize every available opportunity they have to get as many players involved as they possibly can. And on the front end of that requires your top end starters, your first string, to perform exceedingly well in the first quarter of the game. And then you go from there.
Right. No, exactly. And I think that'll be the important part of it on Saturday as to what they can do, how many people the door is open to getting into the game. As always, I knew you were excited about the segment. I sensed it almost matched your anticipation.
Listen, I'm just upset that the phone cut out on me halfway through, but we made it. I'm looking forward to Saturday. I'll see you there.
I thought your recovery on the answer was probably better than the original answer.
Listen, I'm just trying to get better. 1% every day. That's it.
You're the best. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right. This half hour brought to you by NIL Game Changers, the ultimate destination for name, image, and likeness opportunities. Get your journey started today at nilgamechangers.org. Next half hour, our high school roundtable. West Durham at the top of the hour from the ACC Network. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
You want your young athlete to get the most out of life and NIL. You need a roadmap, a strategic approach. NIL Game Changers help student athletes earn while they learn in their collegiate journey. Driven by former student athletes and coaches who work as NIL sports agents and content media designers, they'll guide both student and family, starting with high school students looking toward college and those already in college. Get a seasoned team of marketing experts with a background in athletics and coaching. Visit nilgamechangers.org, the ultimate destination for name, image, and likeness opportunities.